This video features the best brawlers you need to be playing on the first day of April 2025 with the new season and the new brawler. Let's see how much the meta has shifted so far. Alright guys, the first brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Chuck. Now the best thing about Chuck is how fun his super is. Chuck is also a good pick in hot zone as he can set up multiple posts leading from his spawn right into the zone. With a good post setup, Chuck can both quickly arrive in the zone and heavily damage enemies in it, allowing him or his teammates to finish them off. Now even though using Chuck's super is very fun, you need to be cautious when using it. Chuck can be predictable if activating his super with the exact same post, allowing for enemies to camp out his final post where he will stop. As Chuck posts glow when his super is ready, this can be a handy indicator as to when Chuck is going to charge in. As such, when playing him, do ensure to have adequate health and ammo to deal with any campers that may be awaiting for your arrival. Now a time where I'd recommend you use your super is if you can see enemies that are standing within your posts. Chuck has a generally slow reload speed, so it is always best to be at or near full ammo when using his super, or hitting people with his ticket please star power equipped. This will give you value in dashing back and help you charge up your next super while also dealing a lot of damage. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Ems. Now Ems is pretty overrated in this meta because of how many aggro brawlers run the game. Perhaps the largest weakness Ems has is that she cannot deal sufficient damage if a brawler is close to her. Now I know Ems does have her friend zoner gadget which can push enemies back that are in close quarters with you. However, it's less useful against brawlers with supers that allow them to move such as Brawl as they can reapproach you. Now regardless, Ems is still going to be pretty good to play inside of control oriented game modes. Ems is a great control brawler in gem grab, brawl ball, and especially a hot zone due to her lingering attacks. Use Ems to push your enemies to the opposing side when consistently collecting gems in gem grab, keep enemies slowed down while they're carrying the ball in brawl ball, or cover an area of the zone for a long time in hot zone. Now I really recommend playing Ems in the mid-range because that's where she's going to be the most effective. Try to keep the enemy you're attacking at about 2/3 of the attack range, as this causes the enemy to take the full damage of 3 ticks of damage. This makes Ems very vulnerable to close range brawlers who get close enough to her, especially airborne brawlers like El Primo, and this requires her to use her friend zoner gadget to distance herself from such brawlers. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Fang. Something that does still help Fang in this meta is his fresh kick star power. Now don't be afraid to use your super when you have no ammo and you know you can defeat an enemy with your super. And also before using your super, kick with your far range shoot so it ends up counting towards your next super, making it even easier to chain up your next super. Now something that can still help Fang get more kills even though it's not as popular these days, but it's going to be his roundhouse kick gadget. This is paired very well with his super because it will allow him to get another kick in, and that will hopefully allow you to either finish off the enemy or help you chain up your next super for more chaos. Of course, the gadget can be used to disarm the enemy if you need to just stun them for the next half second. Now although Fang's far range shoot doesn't really do a lot of damage, at least it travels at a good speed and it travels pretty far. This is useful for chipping away at enemies that normally outrange Fang's kick, not to mention that it charges as much of his super as his kick. You can use this mechanic to charge your super and travel towards the enemies. You need to be somewhat decent at hitting your far range attacks regardless, since Fang's kick attack range is pretty short. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Brawl. Now one of the best places you can play Brawl in this meta is going to be Heist. Brawl is very useful in Heist as he can rush over water and break the obstacles in front of the enemy safe. The opening that he creates by his super can also be utilized by teammates to attack the safe. It's also viable in this mode with his heavy damage at point blank range, which can be utilized to destroy the safe easily. Now since Brawl is a shotgun brawler, you need to try and stay within close proximity with the enemies. Brawl can deal a lot of damage when he's within close quarters of his target and has high health, but can deal maximum damage when he isn't close. Take advantage of bushes, obstacles, or thin choke points to ambush and defeat enemies. Therefore, in more opened up maps or areas, try to dodge enemy attacks. Now hands down, one of the most important aspects of Bull's entire kit is going to be his super. Bull's super allows him to charge a very long distance in any direction, destroying all obstacles in his way. Since Bull can deal a maximum damage when he's close to his target, this ability can be used for getting Bull close to enemies to defeat them. Make sure to aim your super correctly and predict the enemy's movement so you can reach the enemy properly to defeat them, or use his stomper gadget to get as close as possible to the enemy. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Clancy. Now Clancy really struggles these days, especially at his first stage. Clancy is almost useless at the start of the match since his stage 1's attack is a slow damage bullet with a slow projectile speed. Because of this, you want to play Clancy in enclosed maps that have short range brawlers that allow him to upgrade as soon as possible. At stage 2, Clancy becomes much better thanks to the second attack projectile, which makes it easier to get to stage 3. Now to maximize and optimize your super as best as you can, I recommend using it at a point blank range. The widespread of Clancy's super can be useful to chip enemies from a distance, but you would deal way more damage at a point blank range. So you need to use your super strategically to try and get the most amount of value since it's hard to charge. Now if you struggle staging up with Clancy, I recommend using his snappy shooting gadget. Now one of the best ways you can use snappy shooting is to combine it with your super. This way you're increasing your chances of hitting more projectiles, since obviously your super shoots out more projectiles than your main attack. If you activate your gadget, then use your super onto an enemy at point blank range, you should easily be able to get your next stage and more. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Charlie. Now Charlie can be a pretty good counter to brawlers at a close range. Since Charlie's ammo reloads after her yo-yo returns, she attacks much quicker at close range. This makes her an effective counter to short range brawlers like Mortis, Kenji, and so on. If the enemy is a longer range brawler, using her super can allow her to close down the distance on them and deal very high damage to them once they escape. Now another way you can use Charlie's main attacks is to poke away and chip away at enemies at a distance. I recommend not auto-aiming your attacks unless your range outranges the enemy that you are attacking. You need to be as efficient as possible since you need to wait for the yo-yo to return. Regardless, it's still good to put up a fight against mid-range brawlers and keep the enemies at bay to help you charge up your super. Now of course we can't talk about Charlie without talking about one of the best parts about her entire kit, which is her super. Charlie's super can cancel out any super, so when a brawler like Bull, Buzz, or Fang is attempting to come towards you, you can use her super to save you or your teammates from harm. Using your super onto someone that is chasing you also gives you time to heal up. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Edgar. Now I know I always trash Edgar means because they are so bad, but something that does help Edgar is his hypercharge. Gaining that additional supercharge speed and reload speed makes Edgar pretty unkillable once activated. He can easily cycle supers, constantly keep on healing, and getting more ammo to help him defeat the enemies. It's even crazier when combining with his fisticuff star power for more healing. Now even though his hypercharge is good for lower skilled players, pros don't really find a lot of value of playing Edgar these days. Edgar is made for jumping and countering brawlers that can't deal lots of damage at close range and don't have a ton of health. With brawlers like Frank, Ollie, and Ash running around the meta, there is no shot that Edgar is going to be used competitively amongst the pros. Now something else that Edgar really struggles with is going to be his short main attack range. When close range enemies are trying to chase you down, that is when you need to be attacking them. Your range will be a little bit longer when you're running away and when the enemies are running towards you. This goes the same way if you're chasing down somebody, then your attack range will be shorter. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Pam. Now something that's incredibly underrated about Pam is going to be her scrap sucker gadget. I recommend always trying to use this gadget when you are very close to the enemy to increase the chances of more projectiles hitting them. It's a great gadget to counter tanks or any aggressive brawler that may be pressuring you or your teammates. Also save your ammo before using scrap sucker, so you will have enough ammo to burst down the enemy once they are drained. Now probably one of my favorite things about Pam's kit is going to be the Mama Squeeze star power. This star power is great to use when playing against tanks and other aggro brawlers that may want to try and destroy your turret. This star power can be used in any aggressive way to apply pressure. You can heal yourself, tank shots from the opponents, and do damage to the enemies passively through your turret. Now another thing about Pam that's not really talked about a whole ton is going to be her super turret mythic gear. This mythic gear increases the healing of Pam's turret by 20%. Since this makes Pam's healing station even stronger, make sure that you are placing Pam's healing station behind walls as the healing turret's radius passes through them. This can ensure plenty of healing while keeping the turret itself safe. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Bonnie. Now in a lot of people's eyes, Bonnie is an underrated brawler for quite some time, but overall she is just a weak marksman compared to the others. Something that could benefit Bonnie to make her stronger is to give her an extra bar ammo, kinda like what Lily has. This can make it easier for Bonnie to double her DPS and help her stand her ground when being pressured hard. She doesn't have what it takes to fend off against aggro brawlers in her cannon form, so she needs some sort of buffer rework. Now the only reason why Bonnie can be somewhat useful is because of how well she counters sharpshooters. She is a great counter to brawlers like Angelo, Bell, and Brock because of how bad they are at close range combat. If you can charge your super and jump onto those kind of brawlers with low health and trash unload speeds, you're gonna absolutely cook them. People forget how much damage Bonnie can do when she's not in her cannon form. I mean, it's crazy. Now yes, definitely one of the biggest downsides with Bonnie is how slow she moves in her cannon form. So because of this, you need to run the Sugar Rush gadget and also use the gadget charge gear so you have an extra gadget to use throughout the match. This gadget is so important to help Bonnie move quicker to regain pressure or to just help her in a pinch when needing to dodge a lot of incoming damage. Alright guys, the next brawler we're going to be talking about is going to be Doug. Now Doug's main attack range is definitely something that is hindering his chances of winning engagements. Doug's short range limits his offensive and defensive capabilities, but he has enough range to attack enemies and heal allies. They're at most a tile behind walls, which he can use to his advantage by attacking enemies and healing allies behind walls. This strictly limits throwers that are otherwise taking cover behind obstacles. Now no matter what, something that does make Doug incredibly annoying is going to be his super. When aiming to defeat a specific enemy or group of enemies, Duck can simply use his super and charge towards the group to attack, because getting defeated under the effects of the super will not drop any collectibles that puts his teammates in a losing situation. Make sure to take note of the duration of his super when using this strategy. Well, anyway guys, if you guys enjoyed that video, I highly recommend you guys go check out this video right here.